So this is a warning that as I recorded the video, I noticed that my tripod was not stabilized. So you will watch the following video and it might look like you're going like this because every time I move the table, my camera moves. So my apologies, but I hope you're able to still enjoy the video. Thank you for watching. Shalom guys, welcome back to another episode here at YASHAV Ministry with God's Holidays. Thank you again for being there. Like I always say, if you like the content that we have on our channel, like and subscribe. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, put them in the comments section down below. So this week's Torah portion is Shemot, but before we get started, let's do the Torah blessing. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר בחר בנו מכל העמים ונתן לנו את תורתו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה. Bless Adonai who is blessed. Bless Adonai who is blessed now and forever. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, sovereign of the universe, who has chosen us from among the peoples, has given us the Torah. Blessed are you, Adonai, who gives the Torah. Amen. This week we start with the book of Shemot. And it is the book of Shemot or the book of Exodus. Shemot is plural for names. And so this is the exodus of the people of Israel out of Egypt. We pick off where we left off in the closing part of the book of Bereshit. In Bereshit, we understood the creation narrative. We understood how Adam and men had obviously betrayed Adonai, the creator, and how it trickled down all the way to Noah and then Abraham. And from there, the promise was given to Abraham. And we saw the story of his family and the buildup to the fulfillment and the fruition of this family getting to Egypt. And so they got to Egypt by, obviously, the sons of Jacob betraying their brother, selling him into slavery, after attempting him to kill him, then sell him. And so Joseph becomes second command in the middle of a famine to the Pharaoh at that time. He establishes his people in the land of Goshen in Egypt. They establish there. Jacob dies after he sees Joseph and his sons, and then Joseph dies. And there is a new Pharaoh that comes up after Joseph that becomes fearful and starts oppressing the people. And so this is where we are right now, and we're going to understand a little bit of their mindset, because the important point about the book of Exodus is understanding that God is in control. And I think that's the best way to start off this book, is God is the one in control. And no, it doesn't matter what narrative we create and what world and what things we prioritize over our lives. God is the one that is in control, and he is the ultimate deciding factor in our destinies, if we want to call it that. So, but we're going to read the beginning of the Torah portion, and then we'll get to the little bit of what we're going to talk about. We're going to probably jump around some things. It's going to be a little informative. I hope you see what I'm trying to say. Okay? Let's go. Okay, so this week's Torah portion starts off like this. Wa'ele Shemot B'nei Yisrael Habayim Mizraim Et Yaakov Ish Ubeto Ba'u. In English, it says the following. Now these are the names of the sons of Israel. So these are the names. Shemot, who came to Egypt with Jacob. They came each one with his household. Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Yehudah, Issachar, Zebulun, Benjamin, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, and Asher. All the persons who came from the loins of Jacob were 70 in number. But Joseph was already in Egypt. Joseph died, and all his brothers, all the generations. But the sons of Israel were fruitful and increased greatly and multiplied and became exceedingly mighty, so that the land was filled with them. Now, A new king arose over Egypt, who did not know Joseph. He said to his people, "Behold, the people of the sons of Israel are more than mightier than we. Come, let us deal wisely with them, or else they will multiply, and in the event of war they will also join themselves to those who hate us, and fight against us, and depart from the land." So they appointed taskmakers over them, to afflict them with hard labor, and they built for Pharaoh storage cities, Pithom and Ramses. Now, so we're starting to see that this Pharaoh is acting up on fear, doubt that the people of Israel did not implement on him. He is just taking precautions because there are so many of them. They're mightier and they're prosperous. Obviously, he is missing the point, right? He is trying to keep them, but he goes about it the wrong way because his fear is that they will join others and leave, right? And so we're going to keep reading and understand the mindset of Pharaoh. But the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and the more they spread out, so that they were in the sons of Israel. The Egyptians compelled the sons of Israel to labor rigorously, and they made their lives bitter with hard labor and mortar and bricks and all kinds of labor in the field, all their labors which they rigorously imposed on them. Then the king of Egypt spoke to the Hebrew midwives, one of whom was named Shifra, and the other was named Puah. And he said, "When you are helping the Hebrew women to give birth and see them upon the birth stool, if it is a son, they shall put him to death. But if the daughter, then she shall live." But the midwives feared God and did not do as the king of Egypt had commanded them, but let the boys live. So the king of Egypt called the midwives and said to them, "Why have you done this thing? And let the boys live." The midwives said to Pharaoh, "Because the Hebrew women are not as Egyptian women, for they are vigorously and give birth before the midwife can get to them." So God was good to the midwives, and the people multiplied and became very mighty, because the midwives feared God. He established households for them. Then Pharaoh commanded all his people, saying, "Every son who is born you are to cast into the Nile, and every daughter you are to keep alive." And so we see that it is a big statement made that God was with these midwives because they honor God. And because they honor God, life came forth from these mothers, and they kept growing exceedingly. Now, Pharaoh is not understanding the message, right? God is giving Pharaoh a message that God is in control. But Pharaoh believes he's God. And even though they had a pantheon of gods, Pharaoh is the physical embodiment of God in men, or men in God, right? And so he makes a decision. He says, okay, now every boy will be thrown into the Nile. And it was a cultural understanding that if they were casted into the Nile, the god of the Nile, which I don't remember the name, will judge these babies. And if they did not swim and if they did not survive, they were judged justly in the eyes of the Egyptian Pharaoh, and they were guilty of whatever he thought they were guilty of. And so that was the procedure. And so this mindset is what's going to impact the next scene that we're about to read, because it's very important. Understand, God is in control. That's how we're going to open this Torah portion. That's how we're going to open the book of Exodus, and that's where we're going. God is in control. Okay, let's keep reading. Now, a man from the house of Levi went and married a daughter of Levi. The woman conceived and bore a son, and when she saw that he was beautiful, she hid him for 3 months. When she could not hide him no longer, she got him a wicker and a basket and covered it over with tar and pitch. She put the child into it and set it among the reeds by the bank of the Nile. His sister stood at a distance to find out what would happen to him. The daughter of Pharaoh came down to bathe at the Nile with her maidens walking alongside the Nile, and she saw the basket among the reeds and sent her maid, and she brought it to her. When she opened it, she saw the child, and behold, the boy was crying. And she had pity on him and said, "This one is a Hebrew children." Then his sister said to Pharaoh, "Daughter, shall I go and call a nurse for you, for the Hebrew woman, that she may nurse the child for you?" Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Go ahead." So the girl went and called the child's mother. Then Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Take this child away and nurse him for me, and I will give you your wages." So the woman took the child and nursed him. The child grew, and she brought him to Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. And she named him Moses, and said, "Because I drew him out of the water." Now, this story is very interesting, and we're going to stop there because this is the introduction to what will eventually, down the line, cement Moses in this story. Because the story of Moses is what propels the future class, right? God chose Moses. And the way that God chose Moses is a very visual thing, right? He was in a basket. He was next to reeds. And so when we read these things at face value, they seem very simple. But when we do research, there's things that you can find. Now, this is something that I want to present. You do your research, consider it. Okay, let's go. Now, it is understood that Moses was not just in a little basket. It was some type of boat made of papyrus, reeds. It could have looked something like this, or like this, or I can't find the round one, or like this. Right, and so this little hub here would be like a temple itself, and so they would use these boats obviously to navigate down the rivers and the Nile, and so they will parade themselves in a way of royalty, especially pharaohs, mainly pharaohs, and so it represented some type of authority to an extent, but Moses surviving the judgment that was going on, and he is found in this boat, and he is being protected by the God, and the God of the Nile. It put Moses' story above any other, and he had been judged and found righteously. Okay, now Horus, and Horus is going to be part of or one of the gods that we'll be studying for the Egyptians, because we have to understand that to understand the Egyptians, we have to understand what they believed, right? Because that's their perspective. We cannot just get our perspective and just cram it into the Bible. We have to submerge ourselves in what the Bible and the history that is behind it, okay, so we can understand. Simple, right? My eyes are really red. Okay, let's continue. So, Horus. Horus is the name of the sky god in ancient Egyptian mythology, which designated primarily two deities, Horus the Elder or Horus the Great, the last born of the five original gods, Horus the younger son of Osiris and Isis. According to the historian Jimmy Dune, Horus is the most important of the envian deities, who takes on so many forms and is depicted so differently in various inscriptions that it is nearly impossible to distinguish the true Horus. Horus is mostly a general term for a great number of falcon deities. Okay, now Horus is a Latin version of the Egyptian Hor, which means the distant one, a reference to his role as a sky god. The elder Horus brother of Osiris is Isis, Set, and Nephthys, is known as Horus the Great in English, or Horror, who was transformed into a great god. And so there's a lot of information that we really don't care about. Now, this is the important part. Horus the younger, on the other hand, was powerful sky god associated with the sun, primarily, but also the moon. He was a protector of the royalty of Egypt, avenger of the wrongs, defender of order, uniter of the two lands, and based on his battles with Set, a god of war regularly invoked by Egyptian rulers, before battle and praise afterwards. In time, he became combined with the sun god Ra to form a new deity, Ra Harachet, god of the sun, who sailed across the sky during the day and was depicted as a falcon-headed man wearing the double crown over the lower Egypt with the sun disk on it. His symbols are the eye of Horus, one of the most famous Egyptian symbols, and the falcon. Now, Aru, the field of reeds. Now, so the perspective on the field of reeds, it was what we consider the Egyptian version of paradise. Our usual caveat applies here. Different texts describe Aru differently, and the beliefs of what it looks like and how you reach it and what you do once you are there evolved and changed over 3,000 plus years in ancient Egyptian religion. But let's look at some of the commonalities between the different descriptions of this paradise. First of all, we can already deduce from the name that it had lush vegetation. But the description go on to more detail, showing it was a set of different islands or oases in the middle of a flowing river, covered in fields of reeds or rushes. This place was like an exalted version of mortal life and a more glorified version of Egypt. The agriculture was plentiful. God and human lived together in peace, and there was plenty of work to do and food to eat and people to meet, because life after death was supposed to be continuation of life on earth. Most people were required to work. This, of course, didn't suit most people. No one wanted to work in paradise as hard as they did while they did when they were alive. Okay, now, these perspectives on the god Horus, who will protect Pharaoh, which will represent him, and this mindset of how the field of reeds was the closest thing to paradise, which will be the Garden of Eden to an extent. They had these expectations, and so when they throw these babies into the Nile and they're supposed to be judged, and Pharaoh is the god Ra, Horus, dominating and establishing their rule and their mythological interpretation of how the world works, and in the process Pharaoh mainly becomes an oppressive leader, and so he starts oppressing the people of Israel. And in this process, God saves Moses. And already God was making a statement with the midwives. Midwives said that they were not going to kill the babies because they were just being born so fast. And God honored those women. But at the same time, once Pharaoh decided to judge these babies, Moses was the one that was found righteous. And the story of Moses begins by establishing that God had protected Moses. And in Pharaoh's mind, the god of the Nile had found this baby, this Hebrew baby, righteous. And from there, Moses' story is going to pick off. Because if we can sum up the book of Exodus into a couple of words, it would be God is in control, like I said earlier. God is in control. That's what God is going to teach us as we continue, right? And like I always like to say and have adopted recently is we don't like to associate ourselves with the villain. We like to be the protagonist. We like to say we are Moses or we are Israel. Well, we never associate with Pharaoh. And we never believe that our hearts can be hardened to God's instructions and directions and how God might structure us. And so this is what God is trying to do with Pharaoh. God is trying to let Pharaoh know, I am the one in control. You're not God. I am. And Pharaoh's heart hardens. And so the story will unravel itself. And Moses will be the chosen messenger. And God tells you is, I am the creator. I am in control. Your destiny of you is based on your ability to listen and obey my voice. And if you do that through the messenger that I have chosen, in this case, Moses, to represent me, you will be saved. The key point is obedience. But the message that God is trying to not only give Pharaoh, but to give us is that he is in control. And the longer we understand that, as long as we walk in obedience, God is in control. And it's not like a cute phrase to say, that people say that, oh, God is in control. No, but actions speak louder than words. That's another thing that I like to say. Actions speak louder than words. Moses is going to confront Pharaoh eventually. But at this moment, God is telling Pharaoh, I am coming, and I am in control. So, Shemot names. These are the names that have been remembered. These are the names that have gone to Egypt and that have established themselves. The people, the family that has become a nation. A fulfillment of Abraham's promise. Now, they have to learn with the world that God is in control. And the key to all that is our obedience. So, with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys have a great week. Shavua Tov, Shabbat Shalom, and I appreciate you guys. Please like and subscribe. And if you see my camera moving, I apologize. My tripod is a little unstable. So, take care. Shalom.